Now that we created our project, let's import some footage now. Currently, I'm on the Edit tab. I'll switch to the Media tab to import my footage. Notice that you can still import footage in the Edit tab, but importing in the Media tab provides some extra options and flexibility. The Media tab is divided into multiple sections. First, you have the Media Storage section. This is where I can see my hard drives. It shows me folders and files that are on my hard drives. But these files here are not a part of my project. It only shows me the files that are available in order to import to my project. Then to the right we have the monitor. And down here we have the bins section. This will show me the files that are already imported into this Resolve project, so I can arrange them and add metadata to them. And I have some extra sections to the right here. The first section is the audio meters section, and I can click on this button to see the waveforms. I can click this icon here to hide or show the audio section. And to the bottom here we have the metadata section. Now we will have a separate lecture for metadata, but this is the metadata window. And again, I can click on the metadata button here to hide or show this section. And I can also click on both buttons to hide both sections. So let's get them back. And this button shows me the capture panel. It allows me to capture from a device or a film scanner. So let's close these sections. Let's start now by importing our footage. Importing footage is pretty simple. I can select all the footage I want to import and simply drag it to the bins area. And Resolve is asking me a very important question. The clips I'm importing are using a different frame rate than the Resolve's project's frame rate. And it's asking me whether it should change the Resolve's project frame rate to match the frame rate from the imported footage. Why is that important? Let's take a look at something here. I'll select Don't Change, and now I just imported my footage. Notice that once you import footage into DaVinci Resolve, the project's frame rate is locked. For example, I'll come to Project Settings, and notice that the timeline frame rate is now locked. I cannot change it. Let's hit Cancel, select all files, and hit Backspace to remove the files. And I just removed all the files. And now if I click this icon again to get back to settings, notice that now because I don't have any footage in my project, I can change the timeline's frame rate. So let's hit cancel, import the footage again, and this time let's change the frame rate of the project to match the footage frame rate. So I'm just going to hit change. And now again, if I go back to settings, the frame rate is locked. So it's important to determine your frame rate before you import any footage, because once you import your footage, you cannot change your frame rate. There are some workarounds, but they're not optimal. However, you can import footage with any frame rate and edit footage with any frame rate. What's locked here is the final export frame rate, but you can import footage with any frame rate and work with any type of footage with any frame rate. And now I can hover over any of the files to see a preview of the file in my monitor, and I can double click it to load it into the monitor. And I can hover over this file also, for example, to see the content of this file on the monitor. Note that once I hover off of this file, the monitor is back into loading the original file that was loaded. So in order to load this new file into the monitor, even when the mouse is not hovering over the file, I have to double click this file, and now it has this color around it, which means that this is the file that is currently being loaded into the monitor. And here we have a mute button if you wanted to watch the video without the sound. And I have a fine scrubbing control here. If I click this icon and I keep on holding the mouse button down, now I can use the mouse to scrub through my footage and move one frame at a time, which is a very handy way if, for example, you have a very long footage and you wanted to get to a particular frame, for example. So by clicking here and holding, I can move one frame at a time. And I have a drop-down menu here that provides me with some extra options. So currently it's set to show me the source video. I can click here to see the audio track. Currently I don't have audio in this file, that's why I don't have an audio waveform here. And the last option is for annotations. Currently I don't have any annotations, but if you had a video with annotations on it, you can view the annotations through selecting this option here. Let's get back to source. Note that all these files here are inside this particular bin now. This is the master bin. We have two types of bins in DaVinci Resolve. We have the normal bins and we have the smart bins. There's a coming lecture that only deals with smart bins. But as far as normal bins, I can simply right click here and select add a bin. So let's call this, for example, bin 1. And if I go back to master, I can select any number of my files and move them to the newly selected bin. So now inside the master bin, we have the new bin here. If I double click on it, these are the files that we just moved into this new bin. Let's go back to the master bin. To the right here, we have a couple of options. We first have a slider that allows us to change the size of our thumbnails. Then we can click this button to change how Resolve arranges the thumbnails. So you can select file name, real name, clip name, or any other criteria. Then you have these two icons here that allows you to select whether you want to view your files as a list or as thumbnails. Note that when you select a list, it shows you extra information about your files. For example, the start time code, end time code, the duration of every file, how many frames are in every file, the type, the resolution, and all sorts of other information, including the codec of your file. Let's get back to thumbnails. And this drop-down menu here allows you to view more than one bin at the same time. So for example, if I select the option in the middle, now I have two bin areas. So for example, I'll make the one on the left show the master bin and the one on the right to view bin 1. And I can also arrange them horizontally instead of vertically. So now on top I have master bin and the bottom I have bin 1. Let's go back to viewing one bin only. And finally, I have the search icon that allows me to search through the files. And this is how you import footage into DaVinci Resolve.